And we're live. Happy New Year, everybody. We're back online after some much needed rest. Hope anybody tuning in, hope you got some good time with friends and family. And we made it through the dark time. The light is coming back. So thank you for listening wherever you're tuning in from. This is the Food Web Podcast. And exciting news for 2026 is that we will be going live every Wednesday around this time, late morning, midday. We decided that it's more fun to go live for our podcast than it is to record them offline and give other people an opportunity to share, chat with us. If you're tuning in live, drop something into the comments, but also an opportunity for people to join us live. So if you'd ever like to throw down with us and talk about food, what your ideas are for how the food system could be better, let us know, and you'll be able to join us on one of these Wednesday live sessions. So much love. Happy New Year. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, and then also I'm Keegan, by the way. If you don't know me, I'm the co-founder of Food Web, and I'll be joining Justin on all, if not most of these. And this podcast will be uploaded to YouTube and Spotify every single time that we record one of these. So we'll do it live, but then if you miss it, you can always catch it there. So that does remind me, if you've got another 12 seconds in your day, just go hit that like, subscribe, and rate button on both YouTube and Spotify. This is how Food Web grows. And so with that being said, Justin, we just closed 2025. It's kind of been a heck of a year. The year of the snake, I learned, as my astrologist told me, the year of shedding old things and evolving into new things. Lots of metaphors come to mind, but like seeds, for example. We planted a lot of seeds last year, and now those seeds are growing into something remarkable. So I would love to just start the podcast there. Like, what seeds did we plant? What seeds have germinated, and what kind of growth do we expect for 2026? Not just for Food Web, but like, how are food systems evolving? I've got a couple of more questions in that realm of thinking to throw at you, but that's where we'll start.
Yeah, well, just for a brief recap on 2025, I think one of the biggest things was uh, I finished school. I finished my master's degree midway through the year, and then not too shortly after, the job you were working outside of Food Web came to an end, and we both were in it full time, right? So we've been building this slowly and steadily since 2023. I still had a year and a half of school, and you had a full time job because you had to care for your family, and we've been in that bootstrap late nights building Food Web from the ground up whenever we had an extra hour to put in. But since the fall, it's been both of us actually full time, and even that like 3 or 4 months was pretty wild, actually. Pretty wild to feel the increase in what's possible when we really put our minds to this. And we began planting a lot more seeds. We officially launched in December 8th, but we also planted quite a few seeds of partnerships. Some that have come to fruition. We mentioned we partnered with the Restaurants Association of Nova Scotia, exploring partnerships with a lot of local government officials and some other organizations, and
But
starting
also,
to.
yeah, the referral program, we can't forget to mention that as well. That's like our open partnership kind of model. Like, one of the seeds that we planted is just that we can't do this alone. Like, we actually just can't. Like, if you're watching right now or listening to us, you're listening to the whole Food Web team right now. And so, like, we need your help. The referral program is meant to embody that. So we're a for-profit company, but that doesn't mean that we can't give back anytime that we have the opportunity to do so. So if you go to Food Web and you sign up for an account, you can join the referral program just like a nonprofit would be able to. If you want to send us kitchens, then you'll get a cut of their revenue forever. And so this is like a foundation. Let's say this is like what our soil is made of. This is the seeds. This is the soil that the seeds are being planted in. It's the soil of giving back, and you know, forming a foundation of collaboration. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
No, absolutely. We can't do this alone. And nor should we, right? The future of food is collaborative, right? That's the foundation of what Food Web is trying to do.
I so on that note, Justin, it's like it's the next seed for the conversation after this. So you said the future of food is collaborative. I just released a video on our website. It's called "We All Eat." Okay, and there's a line in that video. Go check it out. It's only 2 minutes and 20 seconds long, but there's a line that says the past of our food system was collaborative. Our food systems used to be made of networks, not supply chains. And I want you to pick that apart in like your classic Justin Andrews way, because like the way that you think about food systems well, it's changed the way that I think about food systems. I continuously learn from you. I'd like just 2 hours ago, you were on a rant and I had to like shut you down on that rant because I was like, wait, this is podcast material. Just like hang on and now go, sir. Like the future of food is collaborative, but why is the past of food also collaborative? And where are we now?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you. I'm going to contextualize that with an example first that I just heard on another podcast yesterday while I was on the metro. Okay, there were some researchers looking at the difference between um, agricultural communities that grow rice and agricultural communities that grow wheat. And they showed that rice cultivating communities are collectivist and wheat cultivating communities are individualistic. Okay. The reason being is rice requires very complex irrigation systems that span beyond the borders of this is my farm and that is your farm. So if there's an issue upstream, it affects the whole village, it affects the whole operation of maybe 10 or 15 farmers, not just one farmer. Whereas wheat is grown a little bit different. You're relying more on rainfall, which can be different across regions. You might have your own irrigation systems. If your farm fails, it might just be your farm and not your neighbor's farm. And that mentality oozes out into the ecosystem of all the other people that work for the farm, work for the companies that supply the farm. And there's been like sociological research on like the personality traits and behaviors of businesses in communities that are heavily rice versus heavily wheat. So that's just kind of an example to get you thinking of, you know, what is a collaborative food system, right? A collaborative food system, you might have people sharing equipment, you might have people sharing land, allowing people's goats to come graze on your fields. And it, you know, there's benefits. Those goats are going to poop and they're going to nourish your fields. Um, and this does happen in Nova Scotia. I was just talking yesterday with Jackie from Food and Beverage Atlantic, who lives in Wolfville, and a lot of the wineries will share equipment with each other because they have to. They can't all afford their own equipment. Whereas these bigger farms at the bigger scale, they have the budgets for their massive machinery and specialized equipment. So, you know, the past is collaborative. The present, people are collaborating. But really, when I say the future of food is collaborative, I dream of a world where it's easy and efficient and fast to collaborate. We take some of these word of mouth local arrangements of, oh, I know that I can call Tony and borrow his tractor, to, oh, let's just like log on and book something we need with ease, right? Wouldn't it be nice if it was just easy to rent a kitchen? And as anybody that's been following us, it's been not easy to find a kitchen, which is why we started Food Web and we began with that process.
Yeah, that's epic, man. Thank you for breaking that down. So, like, we got to riff on this collaborative thing a little bit more because, like, I still need to learn about where we are. Like, I'm your builder, right? So you got to break it down for me. Like, what are people using right now to make it easy. Like people are smart, right? We got to give people the benefit of the doubt. So like, how are people solving their existing challenges now? And like, I refuse to think that like all this collaboration has just like dissipated and went away and evaporated, right? Like that's not what's happened. It's like it's either gone underground or it's like shrunk or like it's still happening, but where is it and how is it happening? Like I think you can add some insight here.
Well, I think you just said it. In some ways, it's gone underground, and that's just natural for us as humans to um over time in community learn what resources are available and who to call, because Dave is just the expert on such and such and he can connect you to people that he knows. Like that's always been there. Um but as populations grew and as more and more people are wanting to start a food business in this example, in this context, some of those more informal underground connections just aren't enough. But to answer your question, how are people solving it? With the example of kitchens, we've spoke with people that are at markets that have found a kitchen, and they found it just by asking, by reaching out to a church and saying, "Hey, can I rent your kitchen?" And maybe 1 in 10 get a yes, and that can be a success story for them. Whether you want to call that luck or not, they were able to find that. Um, but many people don't, right? There's a gap there where people do go and ask and they do go and look, and either the place that somebody else is renting is full, or they're just getting no's from places. So we're here to turn more of those no's into yes and make it easier to share, make it easier to collaborate. Because if you are going to collaborate in sharing of infrastructure, whether that's a kitchen or a tractor, these are expensive things. There's liability. There's things to consider, right? As much as I would love to just, yeah, I trust you. You can use my $250,000 John Deere tractor. It's like, oh, can you sign a contract, please? Like, do you have insurance? Right? Like, there's considerations, and those hesitations are what often lead people to not sharing. So, you know, what we're here to do is kind of hold both parties through that, make it easy to share, make it easy to collaborate, make sure it's documented, and yeah.
Yeah, right on. And so, like, where does that all that data go? Like, I want to kind of ask a leading question here and like let people know what we have in store for Food Web for the year of 2026. Like, what are we building, and how does that undergird what? Like what we've just been talking about, this collaborative nature, like what has to be there for all of that to exist?
Yeah, what needs to be there is visibility. So you need to be able to open up your laptop and find a list of every possible kitchen to rent, every possible place to rent farm equipment, every facility you can contract to make your product, all distributors, funding partners, retail stores. The food system has a lot of pieces. There's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. There's a lot of pieces to that web, and what we're doing is, alongside our kitchen rental platform, we're also building the web. We're building a tool that will allow this visibility. It will allow this observability into all of these pieces. So we will be announcing more as the year goes on, but we have our second app in the process coming soon. Expect
Fully prototyped, I would
early
say. Like
prototype.
you've No, 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 like, it's fully prototyped is what I said. Like, you've done a
Oh,
bang up job. Like, yeah, you've used, Lovable, shout out Lovable for that. Yeah, people might knock AI, but, the rate at which Justin and I have been able to, like, focus our thoughts and coordinate, between us, like, this is actually a really hard thing to solve in a startup. Like, people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars only to miss the mark with this sort of thing. Like they hire designers, they hire entire product and engineering teams just to pull the vision of the founders out of the heads of the founders, right? So, like in a company, in a startup, you've got the visionary. That's you, Justin. You're the subject matter expert and the visionary. And then you've got the builders and the people that go out and market it and sell it and yada, yada, yada. So people spend so much money doing that. But then what have you paid for Lovable so far? Like since you
Like
started?
$400. Like
Yeah,
$400, yeah.
over the course of like 4 or 5 months, and like what you've built is, uh, what did you say? It was like an early prototype. It's like, no, 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 dude, that's like a late prototype. Like this is like almost like MVP. We could pretty well just launch that thing as is. But I still need to plumb it. So like in my technical speak, I need to like wire it up, and then I need to put in the plumbing. Data flows. It's water, right? So we got to put in the plumbing, and that's coming. Like what this platform is, and I've been so impressed with it. It's like it's a living data platform. It'll undergird the like a dozen or more food applications, right? And what you've got on there is like it's an app store. Like what? A food app store? Like what do you mean it's an app store? Well, okay, there's like can you like name drop a couple of folks and yeah, go
Yeah,
for
yeah,
it.
yeah, I will. Okay, so, um, it's one of those things where anybody listening right now, if this is feeling kinda abstract, don't worry, there will be visual demos coming out soon. There's gonna be a lot dropping, but, in many ways our vision is to, if Facebook and Google Maps and Wikipedia had a baby for food, a platform that has chat forums and job postings and directories and a map of all of the food assets, community gardens, farmers markets, distribution, partners. But then, as Keegan was saying, there'll be an app store. So this base layer, this data layer, has the ability to be built on top of. So if you're a builder out there listening, if you also are in the software space with food and you have a different piece of the puzzle that you're working on, reach out to us, because we're building this in a way where we can connect these pieces. So Keegan asked for some examples. Shout out to My Kitchen Ops. They're a company in Toronto that is building some really innovative food cost tools for restaurants. Managing your food cost, knowing your profit margins, and then also kind of doing inventory management on, for your restaurant. That fits perfectly into FoodWeb because our customers are also using FoodWeb to rent a kitchen. If you're renting a kitchen to make your food to sell at the market, you probably should also do food cost analysis, right? So rather than needing multiple accounts across many different softwares, FoodWeb is building this network that allows these tools to come together and talk to one another. And you know, we'll be releasing a little bit more concrete on what that could look like for builders. But whatever you want to build, right? Are you building the next app that's going to compete with Uber Eats? I just learned that Uber Eats charges restaurants $30 a day plus take a fee. Like you don't have to pay the $30 a day, but if you don't get any orders. Because when you log onto Uber Eats at the top of the
Yeah,
list, you'll see a
right.
2-for-1 special or whatever. The restaurant's not offering the 2-for-1. Uber is subsidizing the 2-for-1. So you might log on. I was just talking to the owner of Heartwood Restaurant the other day, right? Heartwood's been a staple in the community for years. You decide I want a peanut bowl. I'm going to order one from Heartwood. I'm going to log on to Uber Eats, and then you get tempted by a 2-for-1. Food's expensive. I'm going to take this. So $30 a day plus fees. That's crazy. So like we want to empower the disruptors, right? And by sharing this data, we can do that, right? We're a team of two. We do not have the data that Meta has. We do not have the data that Google has, right? But all collectively, individually, we do because the data that Meta has and Google has is our data. So by us allowing each other to collaborate on this shared data layer, what we can build faster, we can build stronger, and we can empower all sorts of different food apps. Maybe somebody wants to make a food dating app like Tinder for food. The list goes on and on and on. And we're here to support with some of the baseline infrastructure that can allow all of these things to happen for cheaper and easier.
Yeah, yeah, and please give a shout out to Rink Fries as
Rink
well.
fries, rink fries, yes. These guys down in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, they're building an app that allows you to order from the canteen at the hockey rink from your seat. So, people figured out Uber Eats for home delivery, but if you go to a hockey arena to watch your son's hockey game in rural Nova Scotia and you want some hot dog and poutine, and you're standing in a line that takes 40 minutes, um, you're missing your
You're
kid's
gonna miss
game.
his goal.
You're gonna
Yeah.
miss the goal. So they're working on solving that problem, and they're already getting some traction with some local sports arenas. So if you manage any sports arenas and you're tuning in, like Rink Fries, check them out. It's another cool piece of the puzzle, and we're talking to them about integrating into the network as well.
Yeah, and I wanna just, like, riff on that a little bit for the moment because, like, that's not an app that, like, necessarily needs access to this data layer, right? It sorta has its own isolated use case, like, person talks to canteen, canteen talks to person, like, it doesn't necessarily need to talk to the food web data layer in any sort of meaningful way, but like we were on a call earlier today and like the word food community came up, right? Like there's absolutely no reason why we can't be collaborating with one another and like sharing the cool things that each other are working on. Like so the Rink Fries people, like they're building software that will help support the canteen. The canteen has their own supply chain. Maybe the canteen is using food web for something else, right? Maybe they're using it to inform where they get their ingredients, right? And the folks that we were on the call with earlier, I won't name drop them yet. We might have them on in a month or so. But like they work on factory production, the shipping, logistics. Like they're like a factory platform, right? And so like maybe Food Web has made that introduction and hooked that canteen that Rink Fries supports into that company that's doing that manufacturing and production, it's like, okay, cool. The use case for food web starts to emerge there, right? Like earlier you said what Wikipedia, Facebook, Google, if they all had a baby, I was like, I would add LinkedIn into that mix as well, right? Because like this is
Mm-hmm.
a professional network. People are doing this for their livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
And like times are tough. Times are super tough, especially in the new year. We're already seeing traffic pick up on our Provide a Kitchen page because, like, restaurants boom ish over the December season, and then like after December 25th, everyone takes the day off, and by day I mean like 2 weeks, and then what? Like people are out of money. And they don't go to restaurants. They don't eat out as much. Like, what do restaurants do in that time? Well, I mean, you could be launching and getting yourself listed on Food Web in order to make an extra buck and help a local food entrepreneur, right? Like maybe all of this stitches together in a meaningful way, and like that's something that I want to have us sit on for a little minute.
Hmm.
I mean, we don't have to hash on that too much
No,
more
well,
further than that.
no, I'm reading a comment while you were riffing there. I was reading a comment that came in on Instagram, and it's landing a little heavy. The Charlottetown Farmers Market became non-usable after a fire Christmas Day, and it's been difficult to find a temporary location that has the equipment they need, like kitchens and sinks. So I just I knew you were thrown down there, Keegan, and I went to see what people were saying, and then I'm just now feeling for this piece of this set, like a wow, farmers market out of commission. That's yeah, that's just terrible. Definitely we would I'm gonna see if we can reach out and see
Well,
if
okay,
maybe we
yeah.
can
I mean,
focus some of our there's yeah, like that's why food web's doing what we're doing is make it easier to find the spaces, and inevitably we're going to need to move from one space to the next, whether it's a fire or a business is closing or somebody needs to grow to another size. Change is inevitable, but we want to make navigating that change less bumpy. So that is a use case for Food Web, a tragic one. We're so sorry to yeah to hear, and on Christmas Day of all days of to happen.
This is a solvable problem as well, though. Like, yes, also there's like that not good. Um, so like we get to brainstorm about this in real time now, right? So for example, over the holidays, we spun up pages to talk directly to churches and community centers, lions clubs and legions. And I'm missing one or two of these, but like the point is that someone has to be around to host that farmers market, right? Like farmers markets are in my view, they're like they're the best part of my week when I'm in Nova Scotia. They're the best part of my week when they're the best part of my day when I'm in Montreal because Montreal has farmers markets every day. But like the point here is like they are the place where people come together. Like there's someone playing the guitar or the harp or like juggling and like doing face paint and like people are smiling. People are looking at each other. They're handing each other food. They're talking about, yeah, I grew this in the soil and like, my goats helped like make this. So it's like, okay, I'm actually having a relationship with my food here. Like, I don't know about you, but if you've ever grown food, your food ends up tasting better. If you've, and like you get to kind of inherit that from the farmer that you're talking to. So like when you're talking about the farmers market burning down, like, I can hear it in your voice that that's, like, an emotional, tragic thing for you because, like, you're, synthesizing and you're grappling and you're grabbing all of that energy, that I just described about what farmers markets mean to us and you're like thinking about how tragic that would be if your farmer's market burned down. So like, okay, so what can they do? Well, A, they're gonna need a little money to get them through, right? Like it still costs money to do this transition, but then B, like who's gonna host them, right? Someone has to do that outreach, and it'd be awesome if there was a directory where people had listed available spaces for this thing. And then three, do you have to register your farmer's market, like, with the government? And do you have to, like, register a location? And if your farmer's market burns down, do you have to register a new location? And, like,
Probably.
what does that form look like? And how do we expedite that? And who's the right person to talk to? You wanna riff on any of those questions there, Justin?
I do because, being in this example, being in Prince Edward Island, I can't speak to what the regulatory landscape for registering a farmer's market is in PEI. Uh, but I've been through it in Nova Scotia in 2015 or 2016. Shout out to Sarah Lloyd. We were roommates at the time. She was a student at NSCC Waterfront Campus in Dartmouth, and she started a farmer's market on campus. We were yeah, roommates at the time, and she asked if I wanted to help start this market, and I said absolutely, like yes I do, of course. And so it started every second week, and then it grew to once a week. uh, and yeah, we registered officially with the Department of Agriculture farmers market. We had to fill out paperwork. They needed information about, the building and the location and all these things. We had to get approvals from the building managers. And then we had inspections. The health inspector that came for that market um, gave us a hard time. She was upset that we had vegetables sitting on a table in a public wide open atrium at a school. And it's like, well, what do you mean? Like, it's like that's what a farmer's market is. Like, go to the Halifax Seaport Market. There's just produce sitting on tables in the open air. But she had never overseen a farmer's market before. She had typically been more on the restaurant side of things, and she was an absolute germaphobe, terrified of what bacteria could spread. And she said, and this was about a decade ago, so this is like 75% of a direct quote, but basically, if it were up to her, every single cabbage would be individually wrapped in saran wrap sitting on that table. because people walking by breathing on it and stuff. And this is like pre-COVID. Like this is just like you're a germaphobe. And it's like, no, don't suffocate the cabbage in saran wrap. It'll spoil fast. Just no, just it's going to be fine. And like so this is what we're up against, Keegan. This is when people say, I'm going to start a farmer's market for my community because I want fellow students at my campus to have access to produce when there's no grocery stores anywhere nearby to get food on the way home from class. And we're met with, oh, I'm going to give you a hard time and I don't like that your cabbages aren't wrapped in plastic. Like that's not supportive, right? So whatever is going to happen here in Charlottetown, like I hope you're blessed with a health inspector that is just going to say like, we're here for you, like we got you, we're going to expedite your permits. If that's not the case, call me. Like I will call them and give them my 2 cents, because it should be easy to start a food business, right? Like there should be a department of food business growth and development. That should be a government department in every municipality, every province. It's kind of wild that we don't have that. That people do have to navigate complexities on permits and regulations. Drives me nuts if you can't tell.
Yeah, no, I can tell. Yeah, no, I've heard my fair share of uh of that rant. So yeah, tell me, Justin, a little bit about the advocacy arm and the lobbying arm of FoodWeb. Here at FoodWeb, we're a two-person team, but we span many departments. Let me tell you, I have my hand in at least 3 or 4 departments on any given day. But I know that you're quite passionate about like the legal, the contractual, the political, the lobbying, the advocacy, the critique. Like what if you had $362 million, for example, like what would you do with that amount of money if you had that?
Um, hmm.
There's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge there as well.
There is, and I'm being careful. Stay tuned. Okay, one thing, I'm going to go on a very brief side tangent here. Keegan opened this podcast talking about last year being the year of the snake, so they say. This year is called the year of the flaming horse, so they say. And so all I can say is watch out. Like just watch out, because horses are fast and they kick people in the face. And if you're not careful, so uh, this is the year of calling in broken systems. This is the year of calling in departments that have their priorities misaligned. And I'm using the word calling in here intentionally and not calling out. I don't support call out culture. I think mistakes sometimes aren't personal, sometimes they're systemic, they're built on programs that have been broken for a long time, and it's nobody's fault, but it's time we do better. So, you know, what does that look like from an advocacy perspective? It looks like advocating for um, different departments within government, whether that be federal or provincial, that do fund businesses that do business development or say they do business development and just like to spin their tires, is to do better, is to fund food, right? There's so much focus right now on AI and, in the food ecosystem, a lot of the funding is going to food tech. So like lab grown meat and farming robots, but farmers that are just wanting to grow carrots and tomatoes are struggling to get the funding they need for their businesses. That's not okay, right? We have our priorities misaligned. And as I said a few minutes ago, it should be easy to start a food business. Do you know what type of business it should be hard to start? A mine. If you want to mine lithium, you probably need some permits and regulations and workplace safety documents and all sorts of complicated things. But if you're starting a food business, that should be like the easiest type of business to start. It shouldn't be met with hesitation. It should be met with ease. There should be infrastructure readily available. There should be funding readily available. And unfortunately, Atlantic Canada, time and time again, we've heard countless stories of that not being the case. So Political advocacy and lobbying is a huge part of FoodWeb's path, making sure that we're holding these public institutions accountable. Nova Scotia says they have a mandate to increase the production and consumption of local food. Cool. How is that playing out? They are doing some work. There's examples, people getting infrastructure they need, but we need a 10x, 20x that work. We need to step up. We need to treat food like a focal point, because if we don't, we're in a pickle, right? Our food system's vulnerable, and I know a lot of our current followers know that and are aware, and we need to spread that awareness that food needs a different level of attention, right? We need to buckle down and do better. I did my best not to
Yeah, I
name
appreciate.
names. I'm not, and the names will be named. Just if you're tuning in and you're like, I wonder what agencies he's got this beef with. Like, trust me, I'm working on it, and there will be very intentional, targeted, specific call-ins coming. This is and as I said, year of the fire horse. Like, watch out. It's the year of making noise. It's the year of shining light on broken systems and holding these systems accountable.
I do want to prime our listeners just exactly for like how are these systems broken? Like you said that there's like things that you've heard from people. Like there was a good post by Duncan Ebida on LinkedIn yesterday about like the nature in which like some of these funding situations will reach the people that need them, and like just how exactly is that broken? I want you to just kind of like break that down for our listeners, because like some people might not be aware of like the weird nuance and hoops that you have to jump through in order to get that $15,000.
Okay. So we're going there. We're going there because it's important. So we are going to name a couple names. Beef number one, ACOA. Okay, the Atlantic Canadian Opportunities Agency. Okay, if people aren't familiar with who ACOA is, um, there's the federal government. Ottawa makes decisions. They take way too much of our money in taxes and spend it irresponsibly, and then they trickle it down to the different provinces to be able to fund business development. For the Atlantic region, all four provinces have one agency that gets this federal money. It's called ACOA, the Atlantic Canadian Opportunities Agency. I don't know exactly all their funding streams, but that's like a rough flow. They're responsible for where is strategic investment in the province going, where is job creation going, where do we need to put resources to grow the economy. FoodWeb reaches out to ACOA. Hey, we're doing XYZ. We need help. Okay, cool. They read our business plan. We go back and forth, and then they open up. Here's all these different sorts of programs and grants that are available for a business. There was a grant we were recommended to go and get through an agency called LearnSphere. They had a grant. It was called the CCM Commercialization Grant. It helps businesses go to market. In order to get that grant, so it's a $25,000 grant that they pay $16,500 for. So we're on the hook for $9,500 or $8,500, whatever the math is, and then they contribute the other $16,500. So from the surface, from if you take a step back, it might look, oh, I can get a $16,000 grant for my business. Cool. I'm going to do that. The application takes hours and hours because there's a bajillion questions. Even though I've already spent hours talking to ACOA with their person and they've read our business plan, now I get sent to this agency, have to fill out this grant, but that's 16,500 towards 25,000. I can't spend that to pay myself. I can't use that money to pay for FoodWeb's operating costs. I have to use that to hire an external consultant. And I need to hire that consultant to do something that will help move FoodWeb forward. Okay? Which is like fine and dandy if that consultant is going to do something valuable for us. But I have to go and find that consultant, get them to propose what they're going to do long before we're even getting to work. And then I'll wrap this up. I saw your little finger. I see you.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I want to like nitpick there. Yeah, go on, go on.
and
Wrap it up,
and
and then I want to nitpick.
what this entails too is that 16,500 we don't get until we've already spent the full 25,000. So as a new company that hasn't received funding yet, that is bootstrapping, we're just working from the side of our desks trying to make this happen. We need to find $25,000 so we can go get a loan from the bank and pay that 25,000. We're accruing interest, even though LearnSphere is going to pay back 16,500. That process takes time as well, and we had to pay in advance. So we're accruing several months of interest, probably well over $1,500 of interest in this process. And so this is what Duncan's post was about yesterday. It was, oh, you're starting a business? You want 15 grand? Here's a million things you need to do to get to that 15 grand. You're going to need to incur debt to get that 15 grand. You're going to have to do all of this time and labor and grant writing and consultant searching and proposal drafting, which is time you're not spending on your actual mission of going out there and serving the people that your business intended to serve in the first place. So if this was a process to get 500,000, sure, make sure there's some paperwork to fill out, make sure I'm legit and I'm doing my things. But to make small businesses jump through so many hoops for such a small amount of money that they can't even use to pay themselves is just bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. If you had a mic, you'd be dropping it. So, like the elements of this that I want to nitpick on here, is okay. So, as a startup, you're almost by definition choosing to build a business in an area that no one else knows about. Otherwise, you're having a startup in like a big company, like in an industry that is already established, and maybe you're competing with Goliaths, and then you're having the whole David versus Goliath situation. So, like on the face of it, I actually kind of just disagree with the element that like I need to go hire an external consultant with this money. Like, what makes you think that an external consultant is gonna know my business better than me? Like the most valuable thing I watch a lot of like entrepreneurial influencers, people who have launched dozens of successful businesses, and a lot of them say a lot of the same things, which either means that, well, yeah, I'll just tell you what it means. It means that, there's a formula to success, and that formula is go talk to your customer, basically, right? So, like, one of the things that you were talking about here is like, okay, so you want me to like sit here and jump through these hoops and fill out these papers so that I can get 16.5K for my 25K grant. Meanwhile, I've paid for the 25K and I'm accruing 13% interest at my bank for that, right? Because I'm a startup. It's a high risk. I'm a high risk person, so the bank needs to make more money. So I don't have a 5% interest rate. I have a 13% interest rate, right? Because interest rates work backwards to the way that you think they do. And so all the while, you're not talking to your customer. You're not doing sales. You're not working on your product. You're not doing market research on your own. You're not doing personal development. And you're not even making money at the end of the day. One of the weirdest things is you can't use that money to pay yourself, like not a dime of it. Uh, why? Why doesn't it come with like, okay, cool, 16.5K and 10% of it you can use to pay yourself? Just give me a buck, brother. Just give me a buck, please.
Well, and this happens.
Yeah, go ahead.
This
Continue.
this also Duncan's post also was we're gonna have to link Duncan's post when we post this because we're talking about this a lot, but it was really well outlined. This happens a lot in the nonprofit space too. The same thing happens with grants in the nonprofit space. Is a nonprofit will often have, one or two core staff members, an executive director. They have their what's called core operating costs, the things that don't change, and then different programs and services happen on top of that. 9 times out of 10, grants do not allow money to go to core operational costs. They're only for these specific programs. So if FoodWeb were a not-for-profit, a grant could look like, I'm an executive director, I have a salary of $60,000 a year, and then we're going to go and do project XYZ. We're going to make lunches for some school. We can get a grant to make lunches for a school, and I can get money for the food, and I can get money for marketing for this project, and I can get marketing for the chef we're going to hire to make the school meals and deliver them. But I can't get money for the executive director that oversees this process to allow it to happen in the first place. Because without oversight and coordination, it's not going to happen. So it's in the business community and the nonprofit community where the funding is, oh yeah, go and do a project, right? And in the nonprofit world, people talk about mission drift, where an organization will be desperate for funding, so they'll apply for a grant that's like kind of relevant but not quite, and it makes them go over here to chase this funding that they can't use to just support the foundation of the organization to begin with. And so this is just a broken model. There's a lot of people advocating in the nonprofit space to fund core operations, because without core operations there are no operations. And there's actually I think it's called the Boring Fund. There's a new, I don't know where in the world it is, if it's in Canada or not. I see them popping up on my LinkedIn feed, but they're raising philanthropic money to fund core operations, because core operations are seen as boring. They're not the new next project. They're not the flashy consultant to bring in. They're just day-to-day operations on something that needs to exist. And so shout out to those guys for making that happen. And may 2026 be the year that many of these nonprofits get their core funding.
Right on. So I also want to come to the table with solutions. Like that's like one of my favorite things to do when highlighting how a system is like how and in which ways a system is broken. And like I like on the face of it, like we've made internal decisions at FoodWeb to just be like, well, that's not much money, and like I'm just not going to apply for that. And like there's not a lot of programs for like getting off the ground. Um and like why is that? And what does it look like to fund a company that wants to get off the ground? Like, how do you actually go about, um, like validating and vetting? Because, like, a couple guys who started a company on a Tuesday could want to get off the ground. Well, like, do you give them 150K to, or like, what are the criteria? Right, there has to be some paperwork, but what exactly is that process?
Yeah. I mean, I think you said it best. Like that example of that grant for 16,500, let me spend that money how I see fit, because I'm the expert of my domain. I'm going to do a better job than the consultant's going to do. And in certain industries there may be nuance there. That's why I think a big part of this is food needs to be separated out of the bucket of like general business development, and we need a food development agency. Because if you're a health tech startup and you're building some sort of new heart monitor technology device, maybe hiring some sort of weird science consultant thing is exactly what you need to do to get your certification and whatever. Sure. Same thing I said, if you want to start a lithium mine, it's freaking complicated. But if you're doing something related to building up food infrastructure, just give them money. Like vet them, have your process to vet them, read their business plan, the classic, who are they? Who's the team? What are they doing? Are they the right people for the job? Do you trust them to be able to pull it off? And if the answer is yes, give those people the grant directly and not make them hire some external consultant. For small food businesses trying to feed their community, Give them a micro grant of like 2 grand for their first X number of kitchen hours to be sponsored to give them that leg up on the process, right? If you're a mother of multiple kids trying to support your family and you want to serve food because that's your gift and passion, but you're bogged down with regulations and not getting the funding you need, like that sucks. So food just needs to be treated differently. It needs to be its own domain. And for something so primal and like we all eat, every single one of us, right? We all have to continue to eat. We need a department of food. And in Nova Scotia, the health inspectors, that oversee food permits, they're under the Department of Environment. They used to be under the Department of Agriculture, which kind of made a little more sense, food and agriculture. But now it's the Department of Environment and Climate Change. Why do we not have a Department of Food? So if we're talking about solutions, I think it's the year of scoping the Department of Food and just figuring out how that would be staffed and funded and what programs that could uniquely offer. So if any government people want to hire me on a little side gig to help scope that out, it'd be my pleasure. Otherwise, you're going to hear from us on the lobbying front. So solutions oriented is just support the food businesses.
Awesome. So also like I really like the fact that you've been using the term call in instead of call out. Like our live podcast every Wednesday is a perfect time to call in. For example, throw a comment in there, Q&A. We'll do Q&A all throughout the podcast. Like we don't have any in LinkedIn right now, but take a gander there, Justin, um, at Instagram while I riff on something for a moment. And so, a couple things here that I wanted to add. One, there's a element of proof of work here. So, like, I asked you the question, like, how do you prove whether or not the two guys on a Tuesday want 200K and you give it to them on a Friday? It was like, well, what did they do? What have they done? Like, are these two folks coming in from like the finance industry and all of a sudden they want to start a food company because they hear there's a bunch of money flowing into food companies, or are they food entrepreneurs? Is one of them a chef? Like, did one of them experience these issues? Has he written a bunch of blog posts about it? Like, does he have a passionate story to tell around his food journey? Like, oh, okay. Has he been on some podcasts talking about it? Yeah. Oh, okay. Has he done advocacy? Has he donated to food banks? Has he raised money for these initiatives? Like, all of those things are proof of work, right? You don't need to look that far into that kind of person to say, oh, this is not a guy that's like doing a money grab. This is a guy that is going to do this with or without your money. He can just do it better with your money. Like I'll be like really clear. I'm not like I don't really love the idea of giving money, in general, like through public channels, just like on the face of it. But if you're going to do it, then I'm gonna stand here and I'm gonna critique the way in which you do it. Like some of the dollars that I earn for the Canadian economy are going to all of these different channels. I am a taxpayer. I have the right to speak about this and will continue to do so. That's point number 1. Point number 2 would be, um, again, calling in. So, in my video that's now on the homepage of, FoodWeb, it's also on our YouTube channel, and it's also on the Slash podcast page, um, as well as the latest blog post, so the Slash blog post page. It's everywhere. It's called "We All Eat," and so, like, we should break bread with the folks that we disagree with or that we might find a little prickly or the folks that we have differences with, and like it makes our hair stand up on end to hear them talk and espouse their opinions. But it's really important, like today more than ever, to break bread with everyone, because it is something that you have in common with everyone. Like you might not share the same food culture with people, but like just try food. My I grew up with the idea from my family of like, hey, you don't have to like all the food you eat. and that we put in front of you, but you do have to try it once. And if you don't like it, that's fine. We won't make that dish again. But like, basically what I'm saying is like go and hear people out. Go and like talk to them and break bread with your enemies or with your friends. Just break bread more. Break bread, for those who are listening are not familiar with the phrase, it just means meat. I'm just saying meat, but I'm using a food colloquialism to kind of be fun. Yeah, man. Okay, so we've got 5 minutes left here. What do you want to say? And like, if you don't want to say anything, and if there's Q&A that we need to answer here, let's get into that. But like closing thoughts, like I saw you turn your burner on here in the middle of the show, and like, do you want to put something on simmer now, or are you did you leave the propane on? Like, what's going
Yeah.
through your
Well,
head?
just to riff on that, break bread with folks you don't agree with. It's just reminding me. I was at a conference a number of years ago, and I don't even remember what the focus of the talk was, but this theme came up of how we how we project energy towards those we disagree with, and things are so hostile nowadays, and like having a attitude towards somebody you disagree with may be needed at times under like, if something's like super severe and super just bad, okay, but there's also a room for an understanding that uh is that person of power that you're pissed off with gonna step down off of their pedestal if we continue to be like f you, f you, f you, like we hate you for being so powerful and you're corrupt and blah blah blah. And this woman's perspective was like, what would it look like to tend the garden and have a warm pot of soup on the stove for them to come home one day? Like, what would it look like for some billionaire that you loathe to step off of their pedestal and be like, you know what? I actually wanna like redistribute my wealth and, you know, like et cetera, et cetera. Or that employer you had that was a bit of an asshole to you realize that, like, have you ever had somebody in your life who's like a bit mean, and sometimes like they finally find the courage to name it themselves and be like, hey, you know what? I was being mean. And that's hard. It's hard to do that if you've been in the wrong, to admit that and to come in. And the more that we put up this wall of just like, I'm not hearing anything you have to say, right? It's like, what do we need to do as a community to tend our gardens and to keep the pot of soup on the stove and to keep the candle lit in the window, right? Like, we need to be ready. And that's why this is a year of calling in and not calling out. Is here's what's broken. I'm going to name it. I'm going to point out what isn't working. I'm going to point out the flaws in this process from my vantage point and offer an opportunity to hear why they've designed it in that way. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing. Maybe there's a reason why it is the way it is. And then from that, we can co create a better way, right? If these people that we intend to call in don't engage and they just say it is what it is, it's like, whatever. They can keep their space on the pedestal. And it's like, we'll move on to the next person and see who's ready to actually be called in and have these conversations. There's so much nuance and complexity to what we need to do to transform food systems. It's not about right or wrong. It's really complicated, and we can't do it if we're not gonna unpack it together.
Epic. Agreed. We must do this together. We started this podcast on the note of collaboration, and we shall collaborate on how to solve these problems that we're going to name. Yeah. Okay. So just gonna do some. Oh, do we have any QA there, Justin?
Oh, I just saw Lil joined in. Hey, Lil, nice to see you. Uh, Island Girl 444, who had told us about the Charlottetown fires, also just talking about things being hard with the cost of living rising beyond reasonable affordability in the last 5 years. It says, but you're also a good person. Thank you. um, but not everyone is. So the government needs to be able to have outside accountability. Yeah, absolutely. Um, the more of us that can shine light on these and hold these systems accountable, the better. So thank you for naming
All right,
that.
housekeeping. This podcast is available on Spotify and YouTube. You should rate it. You should like it. You should subscribe to it. You should go to our Instagram and you should like our stuff. And then you should follow us. And then you should go to Facebook and follow us there and comment on us and share our posts there as well. And then you should go to foodweb.network and just like grab a link or two, grab a blog post that you enjoyed reading, and then just share that somewhere. And then you should send us an email and tell us that you did all this, because if you did all that, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of a crazy thing to do. And you must be really fond of us and you must be a big supporter. So if you've done all that, we want to hear from you, because it sounds like you might have a knack for marketing, and we might hire you with no money. But we might give you jobs to do, and then when we do have money, we might pay you. Um, that's my housekeeping, and I'll end it there, Justin.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks everybody for listening. And thanks for those who tuned in live. We'll see you next Wednesday.